Hi team, Coach Alexa here. I had a runner last weekend do a trail half marathon on that really windy and rainy Saturday, and I got a few messages from her on the Friday afternoon when she realised that the forecast wasn't going to change, unfortunately, just asking a little bit about wet weather running clothes for the summer. And it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I have a go-to sort of outfit for cold, wet days in the winter, which is a little bit of a different kettle of fish. You do want to be more careful with getting wet when the weather is a lot colder over the winter period. The same way that we use sweat evaporating from our skin to cool us down in the summer, if you get wet through in the winter and it's a really cold day, that evaporation will be happening, but it won't be your sweat, it'll be the rainwater, and you'll get really quite cold really quite quickly if you're careful, particularly if you have to slow down or stop running. Good few years ago now, I managed to get so cold towards the end of a long run because I had to walk for the final sort of 5 or 10 minutes that I was shaking so much I couldn't actually put the keys in the front door, which made the situation all the more frustrating because I just wanted to get in and get warm by that point. So winter sort of wet weather clothing, I would be wearing long leggings, Gore-Tex shoes, maybe a long sleeved top, merino based possibly, underneath a waterproof running jacket, maybe with a hat, gloves, buff on. In the summer, if you wore all that on a rainy day, you would, to use a phrase that I've coined over the years, be a bit boil in the bag, because the air temperature is a lot higher than it is in the winter. So Saturday and this really rainy day was still 18 degrees, which isn't cold. So if you're wearing all of that stuff, the sweat that you'll be producing, because when you're running and your muscles produce all of that extra heat, you'll be sweating quite a lot. That sweat won't be able to escape. So you're potentially getting wetter from the inside as well as from the rain coming in from the outside. So what's the right balancing point? It depends very much on the air temperature on a summer's day. So sometimes you can get quite muggy, and it was quite muggy on Saturday. Warmer, still days, and they're probably the ones where potentially if it's raining you won't need to be or won't want to be wearing any waterproofs at all, because you'll be perfectly warm enough, you'll just be wet. But to be quite honest, once you are wet, as long as you're wearing wicking clothing, so sort of polyester and elastin based, not cotton, and a decent pair of socks and grippy shoes, you're just wet. And once you're wet, you're not going to get any wetter. So it's better that than be wet and absolutely baking, kind of steaming in your own juices in a waterproof. If, however, it's maybe a windier day, or it's not as humid, or the air temperature is slightly lower even for a sunny day, then you might want to play around with layers a little bit. But bearing in mind, particularly for a longer race like a trail half marathon, you'll probably get pretty wet even if you've got a waterproof on, because water eventually makes its way down via the neck and in through the cuffs. But it's a bit of a balancing point. You definitely won't want to be wearing full waterproofs, including the trousers. I probably wouldn't even want to be wearing a waterproof jacket on a day like that. I might have one with me in my pack for a longer run or a longer race, just in case I had to stop and walk for whatever reason, or if I, tripped and went over on my ankle and I did have to slow down, because if you are wet through, you will get colder much more quickly. But whilst you're still running, you probably should be warmer than you think and won't necessarily need to worry too much about the waterproofs. Of course, out on the trails, a good pair of grippy trail shoes will be more useful. Going back maybe 7 or 8 weeks ago, the trails mile my way were so dried out and hard packed you could run them in road shoes. Now, after all this rain, we're kind of into the state that they would normally be fairly well into the autumn. Pretty muddy, pretty soft underfoot conditions. So thinking about that if you're running off-road in terms of your shoe choice is still important. But as I say, on a warm, muggy, summer's rainy day, you probably don't need the waterproofing that you won't need the waterproofing that you would wear in the winter. Hope that's helpful.